What is up, everybody? We are back. We are back from stop number 2 of the 2023 season. Big Mountain Enduro. We were just at Sunrise Park Resort in Arizona, up in the White Mountains of Arizona. If nobody's been there, I'm sure it's on the map now. What a fantastic job they did up at the resort, putting together a world-class mountain for us to race down, have a fantastic race. Not only did we have the Big Mountain Enduro second stop, but we also combined it with the first ever dual header, which involved the Youth Enduro Series. It was so cool to be out there and see some of the younger Groms out there ripping it, out there riding some of the same trails as the pros, and actually getting out there to mingle with the pros. It was such a good feeling to see everybody interacting under the same sport of enduro. Everybody kind of was out there giving it their best. And I also want to give a big shout out to all the pros. Thanks to all of you who just make yourself so accessible, give us time. We did an autograph session at this race, and it was just so great. We saw people getting their shoes signed, their bike signed, their body signed. We had pictures and all kinds of stuff being signed. So anyway, just want to say thanks again to all the pros. You know who you are. You made it fantastic weekend for not only us, the BME crew. We appreciate your time, but the time you gave to some of the amateur riders, some of the riders that were there racing with the Youth Enduro Series. Afterwards, we heard a ton of comments, especially some from the parents, that just how nervous these guys were trying to get up there and get autographs, how unbelievable they thought the process was, and just the opportunity to get up and maybe ask about the pros' bikes or how the track was running or pick their brain on this or that. Big shout out. We got a great group of pros riding with the Big Mountain Enduro Series. So fantastic job, everybody from our crew at BME. You know who you are as well. Fantastic job on the ops team, the management team, and the timing team, the video team. The list goes on and on. So big thanks to everybody. But we are back with Big Mountain Enduro this week, and back from stop number 2, and we're ready to get rolling in with the podcast. So this week we've got Rob Drew on. Rob Drew is a well-known rider in the BME community. He's a well-known rider in the mountain biking community. So I had a great sit down with him. He was the men's Masters 50 plus champion this past weekend. So we catch up with him about all things BME, all things enduro. So please enjoy the podcast. Rob Drew. This is Rich Kramer with Big Mountain Enduro, and this is the Beyond the Ride podcast. This season, we'll be checking in with mountain bike athletes, brands, and individuals doing big things for the sport of mountain bike. Sweet. Welcome back, Beyond the Ride podcast with Rich Kramer, just coming off a hot round number 2 at Sunrise, Arizona, and fortunate enough for Mr. Rob Drew to be with me today, sharing some time. We're just going to have a little chat today, kind of sum up Arizona, kind of look at other couple things and how you did out there. But anyway, Mr. Rob Drew, how are you, my friend?
I'm tremendous. I thank you, Rich, for the invite, and obviously for the great event this weekend. You and the team put together an awesome weekend. Stages were great, venue was phenomenal, and it was exciting to get back between the tape with BME after several years.
Yeah, it was, man. It was cool to see some people that hadn't been to BME in a while show up for this race, and a really good supportive community of Arizona. There was lots of people from the Phoenix area there racing. But what a cool mountain bike community Phoenix has on hand.
Yeah, I think Phoenix is one of the more underrated riding zones. I don't think we get credit for the variation and the amount of really legit riding spots that we have, but there's some great riding here in Arizona. And what's good about it is you can ride all year round. I mean, obviously in Phoenix in the summer, Tucson in the summer, it's a little uncomfortable, but you can do it. And so I think we're really lucky.
So are you actually in the Phoenix area or outside of it?
I'm in the Phoenix Valley. I live right on South Mountain Park. I'm about, probably 2 or 3 miles as the crow flies from the Sky Harbor Airport. So
right. And
I'm
then
right there.
I hear people mention South Mountain. Is that kind of the backyard area of Phoenix there?
Yeah, it's kind of a small little range that runs on the south part of Phoenix. And it's got about 1,000 feet of vertical. It's got probably 20 good descents. Half of them go off the north side of the mountain and half go off the south. It's the first place that I really started riding mountain bikes when I turned 40 and started riding mountain bikes. And I met up with some guys who'd been riding there a lot. It's a very technical zone. And so there's a ton of nuance in how to effectively ride that area. And it is challenging for people to start out. So in the valley, there's many other easier places to ride if you're a low time rider. And kind of the general sense is that if you're a regular South Mountain rider, you're sort of a step above, or at least a little bit less, at least less sensible.
Yeah.
Because of the risk.
Okay. And then, so what else is there? Because I guess the point I'm trying to get to is I drove into Phoenix, saw South Mountain. Somebody pointed it out to me. I was like, wow, that looks rugged. That looks exposed. That looks kind of fun to ride. Didn't get to ride it. But then we headed out to the White Mountains, which was like 4 hours away from Phoenix. And that was not Arizona to me as I know it.
Yeah, that's high alpine riding. I mean, it's that's what's so crazy about Phoenix. You know, if you go down to Tucson and you go up Mount Lemmon, funny, I think the second time I rode, there's a trail, there's a ride on Mount Lemmon called the Full Lemon Drop, where you go from the top to the bottom. It's 9,000 feet of descending.
Wow.
In one ride. Along the way, there's about 5,500 feet of climbing you have to do, and it's about a 33-mile ride. So it's a huge day in the saddle. And the second time I went, it was basically the beginning of summer. So down in the valley, the highs were going to be in the hundreds. And so I go out there with shorts and a T-shirt, and when I got to the top, it was 26 degrees and snowing. And so that just gives you an idea of the range of what you're going to see. That specific mountain, you go through 4 climate zones on the way down. And so it starts with high alpine, and then it's as if you're in Moab, and then Sedona, and then ultimately similar to Phoenix. Right. And so most people don't realize that we have that type of diversity of riding. And it's pretty fantastic. And in regard to South Mountain, what I'll tell you is when you're driving by looking at it, to me, it doesn't look like very much. But the difference is when you get up on top, there's areas where you can be looking at the airport, watching planes come and go. And then if you go south 100 yards, it feels like you're in Afghanistan. The visual is striking. The rock formations are nothing you would expect to see where you are. Yeah. And so I'm thankful to be able to have that in my backyard and be able to ride it, pretty much every day.
Absolutely. And a lot of the other locals say the exact same thing. So I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to go check that out, but
there's always next time, my friend.
There's always next time. Arizona is waiting.
Yeah. And I've always got a spare room.
I appreciate that, man. That's very nice. So, if anybody doesn't know, we got Rob on the line today, and we're talking. I was fortunate enough to meet you this weekend. First time I ever got to kind of meet you. I've heard about you. Definitely seen, what you and your brother have done for the mountain biking community and the clinics that you've put on throughout the years. You've raced throughout the years. It seems like you've got your hand pretty much, in the mixing bowl of the industry of mountain biking.
We are trying very hard. I think I speak for my brother when I say that no matter the amount of work we do to contribute, it will never equal what bikes have given to us. And that's the driving force behind what we do, is we want other people to get to experience what we have through bikes.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. Then how did you get started? And then tell me a little bit about your story and bikes, if it does mean, that much to you as it means to me. And I think all fellow mountain bikers can absolutely relate to the feeling of getting something back from a mountain bike. It's pretty unbelievable. So tell me a little bit about how you found mountain biking and what it did for you.
Sure. So when I was much younger, I raced professional motocross, and when I was a professional motocross racer, mountain bikes were just getting started in the early 90s. And some of my friends latched onto it and suggested that I use a mountain bike to train. But back then I had zero interest in pedaling a bicycle when I could twist the throttle. Yeah. And so I steered completely clear of it. And I had an enjoyable racing career on motorcycles. But like with many, it ended in terrible injury. And then as I got older and I had some lingering injuries from my motocross career, there were some things I could do and some things I couldn't do. And so any way to pursue fitness was a challenge because of some of the issues that I have. And when I turned 40, I was about 230 pounds, not very happy. And some close friends suggested that I get a mountain bike. And I was very apprehensive because I had experience with them before. But what I didn't know was what they had become. Mm-hmm. And so I initially bought a downhill bike. And on South Mountain, there's a couple of pretty good shuttle trails, and there's a road to get to the top of the mountain. And so I went up there with my downhill bike. And having a moto background, obviously the descending was very comfortable for me. There was no learning curve there, really. But what I noticed on my first day of downhill riding was when you unloaded from the vehicle, there was a short climb to the top of National Trail where you would descend. Mm-hmm. And so the very next time I went out to ride my downhill bike, because everybody would push up that, I took the downhill cassette off and I put a mountain cassette on and I started trying to climb the bike up that. And so very quickly I sort of gravitated to the nuance of the technical climbing because there was so many facets of it that separated success and failure, and it just challenged me, and I loved it. So within 3 months, the hook was set in deep on me as far as biking went. Mm-hmm. And I bought another bike and started riding regularly with a really good group of guys and accelerated my learning. So some of these guys were older, been riding bicycles for decades, and they just really understood that most of the stuff we were doing on a daily basis, these weren't power moves, they weren't strength moves, it was technique related. And so I would try to come in like a powerhouse and overpower some of these obstacles and fail time and time again. And these guys would explain to me, you need to reduce the drama and be more calculated in your approach. So I had, like with my motocross career, I grew up racing motocross in Simi Valley. I got to be around people like Johnny O'Mara and Kyle Lewis, and that exposure allowed me to accelerate my abilities much more quickly than the average person gets to. And it was the same thing with the bike.
Yeah. Yeah, they're pretty amazing. It's wonderful to hear how people get into it and kind of find it, and then the people who do stick with it. It really is a significant outlet that we need. It's significant for me, kind of in my mental health, even just getting.
That's what I was going to say was I've always been a really angry person. Yeah. And what I realized as soon as I stuck with it long enough to develop some fitness, when I put in a heavy effort on the bike and get an endorphins release, it's literally like anger medication. It's like antidepressants. Yeah. And when I go an extended period of time and don't get to ride my bike, I find myself less happy. The people around me who know me well recognize it, and they tell me, dude, go ride your bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that for people who might otherwise be medicated, this is something that will extend your health and your happiness throughout the rest of your life, so long as in the beginning somebody instills with you a good set of tools to ride the bike well so that you don't go out and just get hurt. And that's where the Ride Series came in. Okay.
I got you. So you wanted to kind of give back the proper way to get into mountain biking, proper way to use this outlet, but be safe at the same time.
Yeah, well, shortly after I got serious into mountain biking and started picking up more bikes, I sent a bike to my brother who was at the time living in Texas. And he had been on two wheels all his life, just like I had. And so as he hit his local trails, people started to notice this guy is rapidly accelerating in his skills. How is it that he's improving so much more quickly than I am? And I was having the same experience in Phoenix. And so we got on a call and we agreed that there is a need in the mountain biking community across the country for some people to help. And we're not naive. Obviously, we knew that there's a whole industry of people doing coaching. Mm-hmm. And so the initial plan was, let's vet some of the programs that are out there, decide which one we think is best, and just buy in. We'll buy into their franchise, and then we'll be in business.
Okay.
And so I set about vetting the curriculum of all the programs I knew that were available. And although some of them had some good things they offered, I couldn't get on board with any of them. And with most of them, there were things that I adamantly disagreed with. And I felt like I would be a hypocrite to pay for a certification and then turn around and not teach the curriculum that certification advocated. And so we came to the conclusion we had to develop our own. Wow. And so we started looking at ourselves and asking ourselves, what are the things that we could improve on even at this stage of our lives? What are the things that we need to work on? And what are the most challenging aspects of riding for beginners? And from there, we started to develop a curriculum, and we worked with people, and we tested it and tweaked it and adjusted it. And I think what we have come up with at this stage of the game is the best that is available in the space. And I don't say that lightly, but we have really put in a lot of work, especially Rich, because this has been his job and his life for over 5 years now. And I think he's done amazing things with the program.
Yeah, you can tell how passionate he is about the sport as well. I got to run into him in Arkansas, and just the passion he has of waking up in the morning and going full throttle, putting out media for us, just exposing, I guess they were kind of his home trails over there.
Yep.
So just kind of getting just constant exposure. Yeah, he's a real go-getter in that media world.
Well, he understands the value of conveying that information and the power of the media. Yeah. So in the case of Big Mountain Enduro, there's a lot of people out there who would love to participate, but for whatever reason they can't, whether it's work or family or just financially, they don't have the means, but they have an internet connection. And if you're putting out, or they have a smartphone, and if you're putting out content, well, I don't think most people understand how much work it is to get around the mountain to literally get the coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. He was zipping around every day, had his GoPro ready and microphones attached and wireless microphones attached. So you got good audio while he was riding. And yeah, he would just roll up on a stage and be ready to go to put a good, accurate description down, ride the stage, and then be able to put the media out there.
Yeah, I agree. That's tremendously valuable. It's funny. We had a discussion before he went. He was going to race initially. Okay. And he asked me what I thought about the idea of doing what he ended up doing. And I told him I felt that would be a lot more valuable to more people. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad that he chose to do that. Yeah,
it was a real asset that weekend. It was pretty cool. Did you think about coming out to Nebo? Did you think about that?
Of course I thought about it. I mean, for the last 3 years, I've wanted to be at every BME, and the circumstances in my life just have not allowed it. And work's just been crazy busy for me. So even breaking away this weekend was difficult, but I'm so glad I was able to do it.
Yeah, man. Well, let's circle back to that a little bit. We were talking earlier. There was the second round of Big Mountain Enduro was held this last weekend at Sunrise Park, Arizona, which is a 3.5, I don't know, 4 hours away from where I got off in Phoenix. High alpine racing, and this place was just unreal. It was legit as legit gets. And you ended up taking home the first place trophy for the men's master 50 plus division.
Yes. Obviously I'm 52 now. So it's ironic, when I turned 50, the previous owner, Brandon, of the Big Mountain Enduro, was in a circumstance where he needed to pare down the classifications. Mm-hmm. And the 50 plus division was one that got cut. And so after a couple of years of getting thoroughly beaten by Mike West in the 40 plus, and being in my 50s, I thought, I don't have an interest in going out and being destroyed or being tempted to push beyond my comfort level and hurting myself. And so I kind of got away from it. Okay. But I'm so thrilled that it's back now. And so that gave me a chance to come back and get between the tape again, race with some really, really good 50-plus guys. We had a great group of guys, 8 in the class, and everybody had a phenomenal time. Everybody got through the stages safe, with the exception of a few thrills and spills, which I suffered as well as everybody else. But the work that was done with the fresh cut stages was incredible. Opens up a whole nother aspect of the mountain that nobody on bikes had been touching before. Yeah. And the investment that Sunrise has made in the facility, and that's the only lift service riding we have in Arizona. Oh, okay. So to see them start to invest in the summer sports for me was a thrill, and I think they're going to see huge benefit. And hopefully you guys are already talking about coming back next year, because I thought the event went great.
Yeah, I think all of the above is true. Everything you just said is exactly right. The backcountry stuff, we got hooked up with a guy named Brian at the resort. He was kind of their operations manager. And from what I understand, he put those trails in last season before the snow fell. Snow melted. We were there on Monday and actually digging out snowbanks in the backcountry. I saw posts from friends who were up there a couple of weeks earlier, and they all didn't think the backcountry stuff would happen because there was 6 feet of snow up there still. Yeah, and that and to be honest with you, I think that was talks with them and Rob up to about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was not going to happen if not a lot of work had to be put into it. So I guess the decision was made to put a lot of work into it. Those guys had crews of people out there with chainsaws, shovels, everything you can imagine. And then we got there Tuesday and they said, come on, let's go check this stuff out. And we actually got to go ride it first thing. So there was about 10 of us putting down absolute fresh tracks on that thing. As of Tuesday, Wednesday, we rode it again the afternoon. And then we kind of turned it over to the racers on Thursday. Didn't know what kind of times people were going to put in back there because it was fresh, it was loamy, and it's just so shocking to watch the times drop as you went from Thursday to Sunday back there. Yeah, it started out really loose and awkward and mushy, and it really came in by first stage on Sunday. It was really, really good. And then how'd your weekend go as a whole? Did you? Did I see somewhere, or maybe you even told me that you had a pretty good wreck in practice, maybe? Yeah. So there's a stage called Sticks and Stones. Yep. Which I'm trying to remember. I think that was stage 6 in the race. So that was the second to last stage on Sunday. That trail I've ridden a lot, and my first lap down it on Friday, before, what I would normally do is take a sighting lap, which I should have done, but I started heading down, and it kind of starts to drop and has several water bars, and some of them you can double up. And there's a few places where the trail splits trees, and you can go right of the tree or left of the tree. And there's one section I was very familiar with where there was a left line around a big tree. And so I kind of tripled up some water bars coming into it and made my way to the left of the trail. And when I looked up, I realized it was a bunch of cut logs blocking off that section. It was no longer a part of the trail. And so I took a dig into the wood. And after that, I decided to take off the half shell, put the full face on, and play it a little safer. Yeah, that's a full face environment mountain. We had one of our guys, one of our crew guys, go down on a gravel road, man, just kind of cruising down at the end of the day, and kind of that slippery rocks that's out there, dusty rocks. He took a good sized face plant and busted his chin up, and from that day on, we all had full faces on. It was no room for error on some of those bigger sections too. Those bigger rock sections were just crazy. Yeah, the in-park stages were very technical, very steep, tricky, and you could tell, with the improvements in the park and the local people who now are spending more time up there, the trails were so burned in, unlike I've ever seen them, and so that really made the racing spicy. Yeah, it seems like, I think I saw some older pictures too of certain trails 5 years ago versus certain trails now. And it just looks like the ground has disappeared and exposed all these rocks.
Yeah.
So it's quite a place. It's quite a unique spot. How about during the race? Any accidents? Any falls during the race?
Stage 2, which was what I think you call it fresh cut 2. I didn't have a chance to pre-ride that stage. That was the one stage I didn't ride.
Okay.
And so I won the first stage and was comfortable that I could just kind of check my speed and go easy on stage 2, really not push it. Mm-hmm. And it turned out that apprehension cost me, because right as it turned into the woods, I was going super slow, and I went over this embedded log that turned out to be real slippery and pushed my wheel into a tree, caused me to go over the bars. The ground I landed on was nice and soft, so I didn't get hurt, but my bike got twisted up. And then when I got back on the bike and started riding, I realized my shorts had opened in the crash and I couldn't stop to fix them. And so by the end of the stage, they were literally down on my knees. So yeah, my pants are around my knees, getting caught in the seat, but I couldn't stop. It was funny and awkward, but I still managed to, I think, finish second on that stage, which was great under the circumstances. Yeah. Several other guys in the division had similar crashes, so that was probably the stage that took out the most people, I think. Yeah,
it was surprising as you dropped in. You had to kind of navigate the quick little boulder field, and then there was that log there to the left. And then, so what about going in after day one? Did you have a decent lead? Were you comfortable after day one? Tell me what your thoughts are Saturday night after wrapping up the hard day in the backcountry.
Yeah, so I came out of day one with about a 30-second lead, which I felt was pretty healthy. And my decision for day two was really to kind of play it safe and not push. Traditionally in BME racing, I'm typically not leading after day one. I'm usually, in the top 5, but I always tend to come on late. And so and I like to be in that position. I don't like to be the guy in front, because that adds a little bit of pressure. So it's always nice mentally when you can start chipping away at the leader and watch them kind of come apart.
Yeah.
And that's usually my strategy. And this time I just decided I'm just gonna go easy and not crash, because no matter how slow you ride, it's almost always faster than falling.
Yeah, that's true. But then, so tell me about this. Did you almost play it too safe? Because if I think I looked at the times after Sunday, you only won by 3-4 seconds or something.
No.
It was bigger than that.
It was quite a bit bigger than that.
Okay.
I won every stage on Sunday.
Okay. So you just extended the lead then going into Sunday.
Yeah, and it was just a little by little. What's ironic is sometimes, for me at least, if I ride the trails like I'm just riding with my buddies, those are my best, fastest rides.
Yeah.
With the least amount of effort spent. And so that was the approach I tried to take, was just take it easy, ride the bike, pump the trail, and see how everything falls. And it really worked to my benefit, because I didn't feel like I was taking any big chances all day. And the results showed that I was moving in the right direction. So it worked out great.
Man, that just had to have felt good to come in. I know you haven't raced in a while, or at least at BME in a while. So it had to have been feeling good, man. Kind of a hometown win for you. I know that you had a lot of supporters out there and a lot of people looking to meet you and say hello to you, and had to feel kind of good to put that one down.
Yeah, it was a great event. Obviously, racing in a place I'm familiar with was great. Mm-hmm. Getting to ride new stuff I was unfamiliar with was awesome. And yeah, getting back under the BME banner to race, I loved it. I mean, I have what I think is tremendous history with the Big Mountain Enduro. I have unbelievable memories of some of the best times I've ever had on bikes with BME, and so the fact that that's not over yet is fantastic.
Yeah, it's got to feel great, man. Really, congratulations to you. It really felt great to see you kind of just up there and doing your thing and fighting the whole weekend. So big congratulations to you and what you're doing for the sport and the racing. So good job, man. I really appreciate you being out there.
Yeah, I like I said Sunday, I appreciate your appreciation.
Man, that's good to hear, man. We sometimes you don't hear that enough, and sometimes hard work is hard work, and what we're doing this year with the BME feels hard work, but it feels rewarding, and it feels good when it's getting recognized by someone like you. So we're trying to do some good things and make this series, bring it up to the level that we think it should be, a national, enduro series.
Well, I think that I understand what most may not understand, and that is that everybody out there doing the work isn't doing it for the money. They're doing it for a love of the sport, and so appreciation is the pay. There you go. So it always feels better when people recognize the hard work you're putting in and appreciate your effort. Yeah, it was something, and hopefully we do go back there. That's a mountain that I could see us going back to in a heartbeat. I don't have much say in that, but I know that what else was also cool? It was also cool to bring an event like BME, bring it to Sunrise, and some of those people that worked there, some of those people in the community, even the bike community, had never seen an event like that before. Yeah. And the way that we were able to kind of transform their parking lot, their resort, their mountain into a top level enduro race, tear it down and pretend like we never were there. They were pretty blown away by it. So I hope we go back. I think there's a few different ingredients that are necessary. Number one, you've got to have the facility, and that place, as far as the trails, the altitude, the elements necessary to make a good, tough enduro, that place has it. And a crew that can pull it off, which you guys have. And so those things all work seamlessly, but the political will in the end is what's necessary. If they don't feel like it was good for them, it's possible it won't happen again. But that's not the sentiment that I took away. It seemed to me like they really loved it. And I would be shocked if you guys don't have it on the schedule for next year, because I think it was a great event. I would agree with you 100%. And I think the mountain would agree with you. I think Rob would agree with you. So who knows what the details hammer out in the off season? Who knows if there's already been a deal? I'm not wanting to speak on that stuff, but well, one of the great things about that place is it's on a reservation. So that's right. Some of the bureaucracy that happens with Forest Service land becomes difficult if the person who's the gatekeeper doesn't like you or doesn't like biking in general. It becomes virtually impossible to make a deal happen. These guys, they can say yes or no. It's up to them, and they don't have to jump through some of those hoops. And I think that gives great benefit, because I can tell you the reaction in the community. There's a lot of people I know who would have liked to be there and didn't go. And I'm certain that if it comes back next year, they will be there. So I could see that event doubling in size in 1 year. Yeah, I could see that happening as well. We kind of, we were missing some of the pro riders this time. We were missing a handful of teams that didn't show up. So one of our early kind of intentions was, wow, this people are going to be kind of pissed they missed this one. That's the key. Because it's a first time venue, I can understand people hedging and looking for something that's more established, but surely they've heard and seen what the racing looked like, and they're probably sorry they didn't come. And that's why I say once you have some history, then it's much easier to get people to commit to come the next time, because they see what happened. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens next year. I don't know. That parking lot could easily triple in size of spectators that were there. And that's another thing too, where logistically they have the space to have it be 2 or 3 times the size. So that's why I'm really hopeful that it will remain a fixture on the circuit, because I think it's a great venue. Yeah, agree. Did you get a chance to catch up with any of the pro riders? Are you friends with any of the pro riders? Stephanie maybe, or anybody like that? Stephanie and I are longtime training partners. I rode for Pivot Factory Team from 2017 to 2020, so we were teammates then. Okay. And we're going to ride together Friday morning. So she's a neighbor in the same neighborhood. We get a lot of time to spend together, and I love her. She's fantastic. I was able to get on a chair with Nick Nestoroff. I was riding a Fazzari. He rides for Fazzari. I had a great conversation with Nick, and obviously he came out and dominated again. That guy's clearly an amazing talent. And I'm excited to see when some of the biggest names come back into the BME. Obviously, with the schedule of like EWS and stuff, sometimes you just can't get everybody in one place. But I'm really eager to see how he matches up against guys like Richie Rude.
Yeah, agreed. Nick is on fire. He's really, I've talked to him a couple of times, and it's really interesting to watch the mindset of someone who's that driven to really make a big career out of this. It's his life, obviously. It's all he does now. He was in, a couple other disciplines as well, but this is the first year that he's focusing solely on enduro, solely on BME, and he's 2 for 2.
Well, and those victories breed confidence, and so much of the game is mental. When you believe you can be victorious, oftentimes that's the difference between doing it and not. Yeah. So I'm really excited for him for the rest of the season.
I am too. He's one of my favorites to watch. I mean, all of them are. It just amazes me since I've kind of gotten really dialed in with all this stuff, and it's amazing to watch how close they are, how close a pack of pro riders can finish just tenths of a seconds away from each other. I mean, look at Bella. Look at the pro women's race.
Yeah, 9/10 of a second in the last stage.
In the last stage, she came in back and took it from Steph. That was crazy. It's just that close some days.
Yeah, and that, like you asked earlier, did I potentially back off too much? I'm sure Stephanie's asking herself that same thing. Did I just not give it enough? And she always is a champion, whether she wins or has a DNF or whatever the case is. She always takes it like a trooper, and that's one of the reasons why I love her so much. But I hate to see her not achieve her potential in situations like that and have to reflect on what the reason might have been. Yeah, and
I mean, I guess it's hard to say, but it's all part of racing.
Yeah, and that's how you get better. You got to reflect on that thing and find a way to put it all together on the next one.
Yeah, let's just give her some props real quick. I love talking about Stephanie. I think I'm actually talking with her on Friday. So don't take up too much of her time. Don't hurt her out there on the trails.
Absolutely not. It's usually it's me trying to keep up. But a funny story in regard to riding with her. So back in 2019, I was racing the BME. I think we were 2 rounds in. I think we just finished Winter Park, and she and it was I think a Tuesday or Wednesday, decided to go for a quick ride. And I had been racing a 27.5 bike, but I jumped on a 29er for this ride. And about 15 minutes in, I had a monster crash in front of her. I broke my neck, 5 vertebrae in my back, my collarbone in my arm, got knocked the F out.
Oh.
And she unfortunately had to witness that. And, she helped me get out of there, thankfully. And obviously a long recovery road, but she and I have been through some good ones, and she's always got my back. So, like I said, I love her. She's a special one.
Yeah, she is. I just got to meet her at Nebo, I think, and I mean, she would have won that probably hands down by a lot without a mechanical she had. So I can't wait to talk to her about that. At the end of the day, I think I saw her. Her wheel was zip tied onto the rim.
I saw that.
She's no joke.
Yeah, her fitness and her strength, I think, is unmatched in the entire women's field of bike racing. She puts in so much work, and she has a full-time job on top of that. And she also runs a women's training initiative out here in Phoenix. And I don't understand how she finds the time. She must not sleep.
She must not. She might be one of those people who just runs on adrenaline, happiness, sunshine and rainbows. I don't know what gets her going, but it's really cool to watch. So I get to talk with her on Friday. Been putting this one off. I've been kind of saving it. She's been so nice to volunteer to do this with me a number of times, but I said, please just wait to after Arizona. I think we'll have a lot to talk about. So
yeah, she's got a great story to tell, and she's always entertaining to get with. So I'm excited for you to talk with her.
Yeah. So I'd like to continue a little bit about your racing. Looks like you were heavy back in the BME days of 15, 16, 2015, 2016. And it looks like you were up on the first place podium quite a bit back then. Tell me about what age bracket you were racing back then and a little bit about those days.
So it's a pretty good story. Like I said, I found my way into mountain bike racing, mainly looking for something to improve my health and fitness that I could do with some of the lingering injuries I had from a motocross career. So after I was riding bikes for probably 3 years here in Phoenix, enduro racing was just taken off. It was kind of a new sport within bike racing, but I was aware of it. My brother was aware of it. And there were some people locally who were participating. And I remember there's a guy named Scott Gibbons who actually was the missing guy on the podium this past weekend in the 50 plus division. Yeah. He was racing in 2014. He was racing BME. When I met him, I think he was in fourth in the Masters division. And I rode behind him to the top of National Trail, and we didn't really talk. We just happened to be there at the same time. And he took off down the trail, and I followed him. And when we got to the bottom, he was frantic to kind of check his Strava. And so I asked him, you looking to see if you got the KOM? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, you didn't. And he's like, well, how do you know? I said, because I have it and you weren't going fast enough. And so we struck up a conversation. And then because of the KOMs I had on Strava around South Mountain, he knew who I was. Mm-hmm. And he said, man, you should come and race enduro. You would kill it. And so I told him, I had a racing career. That part of my life is over. Not really interested. And then later on, my brother and I started talking more about it, and we hatched a plan to show up in 2016 and both race the BME.
Okay.
And so after having a motocross career where I started as a beginner and was just that dork who didn't know where to go and what to do, and that frustration I felt, I decided, all right, I'm going to sneak out to the 2015 season and get the lay of the land so that when we show up in 2016, I know what I'm doing. I'm not a goon.
Yeah.
And the first race was in Snowmass, and D Tidwell. By this point, I think I was 44, so I was racing in the 40 plus Masters.
Okay.
D Tidwell was the reigning champion, and like I said, coming out of day one, I think I was maybe in 15th, and so on the second day, and back then, I mean, we had several 20-minute stages. I think the total racing time for that race was 72 minutes. It was huge. Yeah, it was huge. And so coming into the last day, I started taking big chunks out of him. And coming into the last stage, I think he had me by maybe 15 seconds or something.
Okay.
And so I gave it everything I had in that final stage, and I didn't feel like it was enough. But, back then you would go up to the scoring and you would dip your chip in. And then the score would come up. Then your score would come up on the big screen, and everybody was gathered around. And I went up there reluctantly and dipped my chip in, expecting disappointment, and bang! I beat him by 11 seconds.
Nice.
And he couldn't believe it. So I won that first round, and in winning, I won an entry to the next round in Keystone, which turned out to be my best venue because I smashed Keystone. And long story short, I won the Masters Championship in 2015. Then I came back 2016, did it again.
Yeah.
And in 2017, I was in a position to do that, but I have an immune disorder, and it has to do with the platelets in my blood. My immune system destroys them. Yeah. So I have this immune disorder, and when it relapses, I have to do chemotherapy.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately for me, about 2 weeks before the last round, it relapsed, and I had to start chemotherapy. So I was unable to attend the last round, which caused me, I think, to finish second. And it was a real disappointment for me. But because I always felt like if I could get 3 championships with BME, that'd be good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is your year then. Get back out there, finish the season.
Yeah, you never know. This could be it.
Yeah. So
the
tell me a little bit
of great things.
What's going on? You have an immune disorder? Like, what is that? Tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's called ITP, or idiopathic thrombocytopenia purpura. And what happens is, basically, your immune system is very powerful and has the ability to do great things in your defense. But if it gets confused, it can do tremendous damage to your body. And what mine does is it will put an antibody on the platelets in my blood. And as the blood goes through the spleen basically pulls out the platelets, which are the things that clot your blood. Mm-hmm. And so when it flares up, my body is producing platelets, but it's also it's eliminating them faster than I can create them. And so the net result is, if I'm injured, especially with an internal injury where you don't see bleeding, it doesn't ever stop bleeding. And so your blood ends up in your body, outside your circulatory system. And that's fatal.
Have you been dealing with that all your life, or is this something that settled on later?
It came on later. There is no explanation for what caused it. And I've been dealing with it now about 15 years.
And do you deal with it kind of through health and diet, or how do you manage that?
It's really weird. It used to relapse probably every 18 months, every year and a half with on very regular frequency. And my wife and I started trying to be a little bit better about health and diet, and those things seem to have helped to curtail its effects, because I have not had to deal with it now in several years. And my doctors also told me that it could at any time just stop. And so my fingers are crossed, and I'm hopeful that I've crossed that threshold and I'll no longer have to deal with it. But you just don't know. And it's strange, because when it's relapsing, you don't feel sick. And obviously riding the bike the way I do is very risky if I'm in a situation where I have no platelets.
Okay. Yeah, especially if you were to suffer something internal bleeding, broken ribs, something like that.
A head injury would be the worst. You get an internal brain bleed, and you don't see it, so you don't know.
And then when it comes on, you have to just take time off from life, just take time out from everything and go to chemo. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. When it first started happening, I've always been very active and a risk taker. And when it first started happening, I had to find a pastime that wasn't so risky. And so I started flying remote control airplanes. One of the reasons why is because building them is very tedious and time consuming. And one of the medications I take immediately when it relapses is called prednisone, which is a corticosteroid. Yeah. And if you've ever been on it, it makes it difficult to sleep, and it gives you tremendous amounts of energy. And so I would stay up all night building these airplanes, and then I would go out and fly them around, and it was pretty enjoyable for me. It gave me an understanding of aerodynamics that ended up pushing me to become a pilot in real life. And so, there have been some good things that have come from this.
Wow. That is crazy. RC airplanes to kind of following love with aviation altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. I always dreamed of being a pilot when I was little, but I always assumed that it was going to be cost prohibitive. And it turned out, once I met some of the people involved, many pilots also fly RC planes. And so once I met some of those people, the barrier for entry became lower and easier. And next thing I knew, I was flying planes every week, and it's pretty amazing.
When was this? What stage of life was this in? How old were you?
This was probably in my mid 30s.
Okay. And do you still fly today?
I don't fly now. It's one of those things where you either do it or you don't, because it's not something you want to be bad at. So I plan to get back to it. I'm passionate about it. I really enjoy it. But until I know I can dedicate, several hours a week to flying, it's not something that you want to dabble in.
Yeah, I got you. I bet you that dabbling gets expensive too if, you don't have your own setup.
Flying airplanes is very similar to mountain bike riding, in that if you want to be any good at it, you need to do it regularly.
Yeah, it does seem like one of those things you don't want to get too far away with. I know Rob. Did you know Rob is an airline pilot? The
I did not know that.
Yeah, the new owner of BME. He's an airline pilot. He flies for Frontier now, but he's got a good history with it. I always love asking him stories. Flying stories are the best.
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends and customers who are airline pilots, and it's funny. I don't know that I would enjoy it as much if it were my job.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation I also have with my brother. He wanted me to play a bigger role in the ride series. And I told him, Rich, I just don't want riding bikes to be my job. It's my escape. It's my getaway. And if I ever had a day when I come out in the garage and look at my bike and don't want to ride it, I would be heartbroken.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the same way. What is the job then? Is this Drew Brothers Customs? Is this is that your day-to-day thing, kind of working in the automotive industry now?
Yes, I have an auto body repair shop in Chandler, Arizona. We do complete restorations. We do a lot of customization, insurance collision repair as well. And we also have several fleet companies that we do maintenance for. Nice.
What kind of car do you drive? Do you have anything slick and custom?
I wish I could say that I do. Currently, I do not. I think my van's pretty cool and custom.
Yeah.
I actually drive a 2011 Lexus CT200 hybrid.
Okay. There you go.
But my wife's got a new Bronco that we're doing some custom massaging on. So that's pretty cool. And then I also have that 2009 Chevy Express van that is my camping van that I take to the races.
Yeah. I just got my hands on a couple years ago. I got a 1978 International Scout.
Nice. Scouts are on the rise with Bronco prices becoming completely ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Those custom Broncos have now been selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's nuts.
It's crazy. So my wife has a 69 Bronco that we bought.
Okay.
And I proceeded to tear it all apart with big ambitions. And 15 or 20 years later, it's still in pieces, which led to me having to buy her the new Bronco because I never finished the old one.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, now that I own an older car and it's a daily driver, but it's not pretty. It's got, some wear on it and weather on it. And I kind of like it that way. I kind of like it looking a little sweaty and rusty. But I tell you what, man, I completely understand and see how people have garage fulls of cars that never get put back together. I can completely understand it now that I own it because I've scared myself many a times, just taking apart whatever, the radiator, replacing the alternator or something, and it goes wrong. Something else comes up, and then you have a garage full of parts. It's my worst nightmare, I think, of owning this car.
Yeah. Yeah, you better be prepared to be working on it a lot of the time because that's half the deal.
And that's fun. It really is an outlet for me. It is pretty cool. So what else is coming up, man? You guys got any ride series things we can talk about? You guys got anything like that coming up?
Rich is going to be in the Chicagoland area pretty quick here. We were just talking about that this morning, and then he told me that he's got an event scheduled in Phoenix coming up in October, about middle of the month.
Gotcha.
So he's always got events happening, and my hope is by the beginning of 2024 to be a little bit more involved with him. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of trying to make moves to get there.
So he's pretty much, if he's running that, do you just kind of come and make? Because I have a friend of mine, Dan. He went and saw you guys maybe in Pennsylvania. I don't even know where he saw you now, but he did go to one of your guys' clinics And anyway, my question is, do you hop in and out as he needs you, or is there a specialty that you show up for?
There was a time, it's been a couple of years really since I participated in any events, just because I've been so busy with my business, I couldn't leave.
Okay.
But how it used to be is, he would fly me in, I would help set up, participate in the event, and then I'd fly home.
Okay.
And that's probably what we will, with luck, get back to. We have talked about having two setups, one on the Western U.S. and one on the Eastern U.S. and I would run one and he would run the other one, and we haven't been able to get there yet.
I got you. What about next coming up, the rest of the season? More racing for you? What's going to kick off after this win?
I really want to try to ride the rest of the season. I've never raced in Durango, never ridden in Durango. So it really appeals to me to go there. And Big Sky was one of my favorite events. So I would love to go there as well. We'll just unfortunately, I can't say that I'm going to be there because I don't know. It's really going to depend how things go here at work.
Sure.
But I sure would like to be there.
That's cool. We'd love to have
you. What I can tell you is if I'm not there, I will be on my phone watching to see what you're sharing with me. So not to put undue pressure on you, but
I will try. We're trying and trying and trying. So who knows? I do know that we're trying to plan something big for Big Sky. I know we're trying to do something televised or live, kind of circle back, talk to the pros, see how their season's going, talk to some of the riders who've put in the series. Because it's not just the pro riders that are doing the series. You'd be surprised how many people are actually doing the whole series. Amateurs all the way up to, for Groms, all the way up to the Masters.
Well, that's how it used to be when I first started doing it. When I started racing BME, the Masters division would have 40 plus riders, and at least 20 of those guys would travel to every round in the series. So you always got to see the same faces racing, and you got to battle with the same guys. And I loved that about the sport.
Wow, that surprises me. That's a big number.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, now we have something to shoot for. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Yeah, I get intrigued by watching, the families that support it, the riders, how important it is for them, and they make every race. It's quite surprising.
Well, I think the economics of the world make it challenging because it's expensive to do it. When gas prices go up, it makes it harder. Yeah. The companies that would provide products and prizes, if business isn't good, they don't have those things to give, and that makes it less worthwhile to go. I mean, this past weekend, I won a set of Industry 9 wheels. Yeah. I won a set of Maxxis tires, double downs. I mean, those things are $100 a piece now, and so it makes it easier to justify spending $300, $400, $500 to go race when you have a chance to win something or come out of it with something.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough this race and the past race to have, between cash and prizes, I think it was about $30,000 worth of stuff we gave away.
It's nice to see. And I know back in the day, BME would always have a raffle. Well, so the raffle was always, there was great prizes. So I would always bring an extra, at least $300 to buy tickets. And it would never fail. I would come out of there with $1,000 or $1,500 worth of stuff. Helmets, shoes, wheels, forks, shocks. You can't imagine all the great stuff I would take home. It was fantastic. But then people started picking up on it. And so it turned out to be great because there was more money coming in for the raffle, which, it worked out really good.
That's a good raffle strategy. That's the pro tip.
It was always something great to look forward to.
That's cool. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you so much for what you do. We'll get you out of here, but thank you so much, man, for giving me time, number one, today, taking time out of your day. I know it's a work day for everybody. Taking time out of your life to come be a part of BME, taking out of your personal life to give back to the mountain bike community. You are an inspiration. You're a good guy to follow, man. So everybody go check him out online. We'll post all his stuff. Where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at the Rob Drew. I think it's maybe Rob Drew on Facebook, which I'm not on there that much, but I also have a YouTube channel that I'm going to start producing more content regularly on, and that's Rob Drew on YouTube.
Sounds good. You'll be everywhere. We'll make sure you guys find him. Again, man, such congratulations on the win. That was so exciting this weekend to see you up there and come out of the crowd and the whole crowd rooting for you. Cheering you on. It was just electrifying. So,
yeah, thanks for having me, Rich. And as far as the racing, I was so thankful for the support and the people who are behind me. It means a lot. And like I said earlier, I could never give back enough to repay what bicycles have given to me. The MTB community is fantastic, so supportive. It allows me to meet so many great, like-minded people, and I'm thankful to have it.
Yeah, we all are. I think we all feel very similar to that. So you're definitely doing your part. We all need to do our parts and be part of this great community, as you said. So hopefully we see you at Durango, man. I know it's coming up in a couple weeks, but we'll leave a spot open for you.
Fingers crossed, buddy. Fingers crossed.
All right. Rob Drew, everybody. Thank you, my friend. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good day.
All right, you too.